It's time once again for the Passion to Succeed podcast, where we explore the traits, mindsets, and attitudes of passionate and successful individuals. This show is for anyone who wants to make a difference, make more money, learn from the greatest minds, and discover how to be more successful in all you do and doing it with a pure passion to succeed. Here's your host, serial entrepreneur, successful author, and the world's most passionate master coach, Craig White.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another podcast show. I hope you're having an absolutely wicked day today. Joining me today, we've got an amazing guy, somebody I've worked with and been inspired by. He's become a good friend, a great guy called Barry Phillips. How are you today, Barry?
Yeah, brilliant, Craig. Thanks.
Good stuff. Good. Guys, for those of you that don't know Barry, commonly known as Barry the Book, has been running a fantastic company called Knowledge is King now for around about 14 years. And they're very much responsible for providing thousands upon thousands of people within our industry, hot and up-to-date personal development material from all over the world. And in many cases, I know you've brought, some world-renowned leaders and authors and speakers from around the world, to the UK stages, which is, been really great, Barry. I know we share a passion for personal development and connecting with ourselves, and I'm sure we'll discuss that at some point today. But how did it all start for you? Because I know you've been involved in the industry now for 18 years. I mean, where did the idea of Knowledge is King come from, and how does it work for you, really?
Yeah, good question, Craig. Ultimately, what it was, I was 18 years ago. I was actually a network marketer myself. I was working with an American company called Envirotech, that had a whole range of waterless technology products, which were way before their time. And within that, we were building, myself and my dad, we were actually building quite a large team ourselves. And to support them, we started to bring in the good books and the good CDs from America, because at that time, you could not find them anywhere for love or money. You just couldn't get hold of them in the UK. So we'd already started to establish a few connections with people like Jim Rohn and a couple of the other big American companies that were at the time selling both network marketing and personal development material. So we were bringing it over, and we were helping support our growing team with this material. Now, unfortunately, what they chose to do a couple of years into Envirotech in the UK, they chose to go back to the traditional direct sales model, which meant that overnight we lost our royalty income. However, what we had done is we'd established some great connections with people in personal development and network marketing who had great material, but we'd also realised the importance of it as well. One of the things I remember in those early days is that I kind of recognised something I think Jim Rohn said, which is that your business will only grow as you grow. And I recognised that myself. I saw it in my own experience. I love the books and the CDs anyway. Still love reading all the material myself. But we also saw it happening in our team. We saw our team growing, building, and obviously them benefiting from growing, and it helping them to grow their businesses. So although overnight we were no longer in a network, we had established some good contacts, including other contacts with a few other companies. And so it was almost like a natural progression to move from being a network marketer to supporting the industry with that material. And that's literally how it started. And Knowledge is King's now been running for 14 years.
It's awesome, really, because I know you kind of look to really keep in tune with the British attitudes, really, and look to bring in the relevant resources. Obviously, I'd imagine you're scouring the world and you've got them connections. I'm a firm believer as well. We do become what we study.
Absolutely.
And I'd imagine you've got an extensive library yourself, Barry, that spanned 14 years. I can just visualise and imagine what it looks like.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's so many that sometimes you forget, some of the best ones. And I know we've talked about this before. If I had a conversation with a customer this morning who'd just gone back over Questions and the Answers by Alan Pease and just sort of said, yeah, wow, I can't believe how much good material's in there. I know I've been using this stuff, but, I bought this in 98, he told me. 1998, he bought it. and he's just revisited it and started using it again, and that's often the case with it, so sometimes it's one of those situations where you can't remember all of the good stuff that you've read and listened to over the years unless you've implemented it and it's made a massive change in your life.
I think that's a key aspect, isn't it? Because I know, I mean, obviously I've got that hunger and appetite for personal growth and personal development, as I know you have. And I think, as you said, a lot of the time it's the importance of not just learning the information, but acting upon it so that it becomes part of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think if you're just reading the information, I think maybe from my early experiences, and I don't know, I'm sure you've maybe experienced the same sort of thing, but from the early experiences of reading a lot of books, but probably not putting a high enough percentage of it into action. So I was never actually really learning. I know you've said before, kind of do the thing and have the power. I think we've discussed at some point. I mean, it's always very important to keep fresh with what's hot and what's in the market today, what's relevant to today's industry. But there is some all-time classics that you can just consistently keep reading again and again, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, as I said, each time I speak with people, especially people who've been around the industry for quite a while, like yourselves, that's very, very common. And sometimes we do have to do that. I mean, I do it personally. I mean, Think and Grow Rich was one of the reasons I actually formulated Knowledge is King, in fact. And that's actually what happened. Whilst I was in between kind of jobs after Envirotech went back to direct sales, I was working very briefly for a company down in Bristol, and I used to commute on a daily basis from Wallingford to Bristol, which is about 90 minutes there and back. And I had it was an old audio tape at the time. It was a 3 audio tape of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Mm-hmm. And I used to listen to it every day on the way down there, on the way back, almost to the point where, well, I mean, firstly, I wore the casing out. You couldn't read, the exterior where it used to say Think and Grow Rich. But I could almost at that time have talk to you about it verbatim and given you exactly what he was saying on the CDs. And lo and behold, within, I don't know, about 2 months of this starting this Bristol commute, I formed Knowledge is King.
The joys of being a busy man, hey?
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, you formulated Knowledge is King really from the back end of that. Then that's awesome.
I do believe that, yeah, and that's one of the ones that I revisit on a yearly basis. Normally in January, I always go back over that. Okay. My copy's well highlighted, and I just go back over the relevant bits. But it's interesting because even then, some of the bits I've forgotten or I haven't necessarily implemented them.
And do you think it's as you grow, you start to see things differently? I suppose through your personal growth, different things kind of fall into place at different times in your life, I suppose, would they?
Definitely. And it's also good to keep a track of things like that as well. It's one of the other things that I remember, again, going back to the early days, I spoke to a lot of people that were ex-Amway, okay. And they all used to tell me that even if they hadn't made any money from Amway, the biggest benefit that they gained was getting involved in some great, reading and listening material, because that's something that Amway used to do a lot, promote a lot. And again, that's, again, Jim Rohn comes to mind there, where he says it's not what you get, it's what you become. And, sometimes we don't necessarily recognise how far we have moved on. We've read a lot, we've implemented certain things from different books, and it's very easy sometimes not to actually acknowledge just how far you have come and how much you have grown and the benefit of that, because it's not just your own benefit. Obviously, if you're working with a team, the team see it and they replicate it. But it's the same when you've got kids. When you see your kids taking note of what you're doing and duplicating you, copying you, and it's positive stuff you learn from books, that to me is icing on the cake. That's the real nitty gritty of personal development, in its entirety.
I suppose you're very much creating that empowering environment, starting with your own self, because it's the inside that creates the outside, isn't it? So I suppose, from doing so and, studying, I get that message. Obviously, certainly with like Think and Grow Rich, you've studied that program from the book to the audio CD, that a lot of it would be, part of your deep-seated beliefs and second nature to you. You've become very much built around that. And I can understand creating that environment for your kids. I mean, obviously, I've got a couple of young kids, and Actually, I'll tell you, Barry, my youngest, it's quite funny because I've got a real good environment. Obviously, the personal development's allowed me to have that same effect on her. And she's got a philosophy of I can, and you keep on keeping on, and practice makes perfect. She's only 4.5. She's got a great little attitude, and we went kite flying the other day, and she looked at me and she said, "Daddy, you really need practice to get good at this." And I just thought that's brilliant, And I suppose like our industry, it's worth practicing, it's worth getting good at because it will change people's lives, won't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's massive. Good point as well. Good point that you just brought up there. I mean, there's a you probably heard. I can't remember exactly where it came from, but there was a study done, and to master anything, they were talking about 10,000 hours of practice. And it's been followed up recently with a very smart book called Bounce by an English guy, in fact, called Matthew Said. Now, Matthew Said was a England table tennis player.
Okay.
And so he's studied it from a sports angle, but he's then now studying it from a business point of view. And again, it's no different. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people face when they join, our industry, the direct sales network marketing industry, is that they don't realize that if that's all they do is just keep practicing, they will be successful. If they don't get overnight success or quick success, sometimes, unfortunately, some people, tend to go elsewhere, or they look elsewhere. They actually sometimes think that it doesn't work. But if they realize right from the outset that it's just a case of getting good at a few very, very simple skills, and they're pretty much the same across the board, whichever company you're working with, then, you can become whatever you want to become through that industry and through that company, which is phenomenal. Nothing like it out there, Craig.
It's that, I suppose, the key of perseverance, isn't it? And I'm trying to remember what book it was I read. It was recommended by a good friend and colleague of mine, Stephen, and it was talking about the difference between, mediocrity and the top performers in any industry, in any sport, in any area of life, is one hard-hitting word, and that's chronic inconsistency. Yeah. I suppose it's that perseverance, as you said, learning them core skills. And I suppose, like, one of the things I've learned with my personal development, I think, Jim Rohn was famous for saying it, there's no new fundamentals. If anybody, says, hey, found a brand new way, a new fundamental here, you need to be going in the other direction. And I suppose that's the, in life, in our business, in personal growth, whether people want to be, I suppose, a great footballer or a great rower or a great mum or dad or whatever it may be, it's that perseverance with, implementing the basic skills and looking to just be the very best they can be.
Absolutely. And then just to practice it. I mean, again, going back to the sports, I remember when Beckham was at his peak, renowned and recognised as one of the best players, if not the best player in the world at one point. People used to talk about his free kicks, and everyone used to marvel at them, and obviously that was something he was well known for. But I also remember reading about how he'd finish training, all the other guys would go home, and for the next 3 hours he'd be out at Old Trafford practicing corners and free kicks. He'd have one other person with him, just throwing the ball back to him. So all he did and that to me again emphasises why he was so good. He was prepared to do. That's the other thing, which again you just touched on there, which I think is really, really key. I remember not too long after I started, I met a very, very influential couple of leaders from another company, and I did a kind of semi-interview with them, just purely wanted to find out about them, but what was it that was making them so successful? And bear in mind, this was sort of 10 years ago. I mean, they are now earning over £1 million a year in the industry. They're both from the UK, and I remember I was sat there, and it was so simple what she said to me that I didn't really grasp it at the time. I wrote it down, and I've been back over the notes several times. She turned around, she said, the difference that makes the difference is being prepared to do whatever it takes. And it's something that's a very, very, it's almost a throwaway comment, but when you really, really think about that, if people were totally prepared to do whatever it takes, firstly, they'll never have to do everything they think they're going to have to do, but more importantly, they would reach the top of whatever their top of whatever network they're in, or whatever industry they're in, or whatever business they're in. So you touched on persistence there, and that is one of the major keys.
I suppose that commitment, going back to, doing what it takes, and the kind of the philosophy of Beckham. And I suppose so many people, in our industry, or in sports, they see the success and they see the fruits of people's labour. They see the lifestyle. They see, the great lifestyle, the great cars, houses, holidays, all the shiny things that come along with success. They see the person people have become even. But what they often don't see is this commitment to have that attitude, I suppose, of doing what it takes, from the point of, I remember talking a while ago, I think it was a training I did, and I was talking about the similarity, are Premiership footballers worth the millions they're paid? Well, I think they are, because I think they've made themselves worth it, maybe right from an early age. When, if you take someone like David Beckham, he probably wasn't out in the street, robbing cars, or he wasn't eating McDonald's. He was on a strict diet. He was on a strict training program. He was committed to his goal, his passion, and he had a passion to learn and as you said, make it happen.
Absolutely.
And I suppose that's the same in everything, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, sport is a great analogy in them respects. I mean, the other one that instantly comes to mind there. I mean, as you know, I'm a keen golfer, and Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods has been nurtured from the age of 2 to 3 to 4, I think, to be the greatest golfer the world's ever seen, which is what he has become. And he's, the benefit that he's and the different level that he took golf to, again at his peak. I mean, I say at his peak, he's just won a game this weekend, just gone. US Open coming up in 2 weeks' time. You never know; he might be winning another major. But again, if I've read several of his books, and the dedication, most people, to be fair, wouldn't be prepared to put that in. But that is to be the pinnacle, the best in the world. Not everyone's trying to be the best in the world in this industry. But if they just realise that it is a case of committing, being persistent and practicing until they get good. Because if you keep practicing, you will get good. It doesn't matter what aspect it is, whether it's phoning people, whether it's cold calling, meeting people on the street, doing presentations. It doesn't matter what it is. If you practice, you will get good.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll master it.
Yeah, agreed. I know one of the things that we share in common is a kind of passion to connect with ourselves and keep fresh to what matters to us. I suppose, the power of goal setting. We know the importance of goals and why. And I'm sure maybe you could recommend a couple of great books for people to really nail this, because I think, as you know, it's like what we're talking, the sports stars and Tiger Woods, it's the dedication to achieve what they've set out to achieve, what goals they've set, what they're passionate about, what matters to them. And I think you need that to be able to make that decision to do whatever it takes.
Definitely.
Before we because I'd like to chat with you, because I know we both went away last year for our own reasons, but it was really empowering. What would you kind of recommend for on a book point of view? I know there's loads, Barry, but from your experience, for somebody quite early on in their business, or relatively new to goal setting, or maybe even someone that's not mastered the importance of goal setting yet, what would be one or two cracking books for them to study and implement?
I mean, the two that instantly come to mind, Craig, and again, this is probably more, I mean, it's based on my opinion, but also more on what I know has helped so many people over the last 2 or 3 years, has been The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson and The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, because they're not specifically set out, hey, this is how to set goals, but the principles of them are all about, setting your goals, having your plan, and then working it, but doing it really small, one bite at a time, just those little things that make the difference. Yeah. If you can change those habits, then even if you're not prepared to sit down and set massive goals, you will notice a difference in all aspects of your life. And again, the feedback and the results that we've seen people get over the last couple of years with those two particular items has been phenomenal. So that would be a strong recommendation from me.
Oh, brilliant. That's interesting. I wouldn't have expected you recommend them, but I can see why. Obviously, having read and studied the both of them myself, I understand why, but it wasn't what I expected. So you pulled one out of the bag there, mate. But I know. I mean, I went away last year. I know, as I think it was last year. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
But I know we share a common vibe, I suppose, or common feeling of the importance of spending time with yourself and connecting with yourself. I mean, where was it that you went again? I can't remember now.
Well, it was actually my 50th last October.
Yeah.
And I'd always wanted to go to Asia. It's somewhere I'd never been before. So I had this goal of visiting several of the Asian countries, and basically I took a month out of the business from the 50th. I visited the Philippines, Vietnam, and Hong Kong, China. So it was pretty amazing, and kind of did that on my own. Met a few interesting people along the way, but it was phenomenal. I mean, I know what you're getting at, and it's sometimes hard to quantify just how important time out from business, from work, from everything can be. You know, I mean, these days, as we know, we're so much busier. We're bombarded with a lot more information due to technology. You know, you've got your phones and every other form of every other form of technology that you use. And I do feel that even more so now, people need to get away, even if it's just a couple of days, but to just spend time on them with themselves. Sometimes do it nothing, Craig. I know we talked about this. For me, it wasn't necessarily what I was doing when I was away. It was just the fact I was totally freed up. I had nobody trying to get hold of me. You know, the phone was left in the room every day, and just. I got so in touch with what I wanted to do. I had inspiration. That's the one for me. The biggest one for me is when I totally shut down from everything, I get inspired. I'll sometimes wake up with an idea, or I'll just be cycling and I'll have an idea. I'll be near the sea. I tend to get a lot of ideas there. And it's just that whole experience of being away from it all, clearing your mind. To me, I look upon it as a mental shower.
Yeah.
Completely empty my head and let new stuff come in.
And truly relax, hey? I think that's the key as well.
I know when you were telling me about it was Thailand, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What in that respect? What based on what I just said? What did you also experience? Was it similar or?
Well, yeah, I went away because I'd always wanted to learn to meditate and I wanted to do yoga, and I just reached to a point, and it was early last year, and I just thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going away for a week. So I found this tiny little island. I think it was 2 weeks before I booked everything. The beauty of having a royalty income and the freedom of choice, hey?
Absolutely.
I just went away and connected with this wonderful French couple who live out in this beautiful little island near the Cambodian border. It's very, very out of the way in Thailand. It wasn't commercialized. It was real Thai. It was great. But what I found was, I'll be honest, the fear. I remember when I was traveling down to the airport, and I got to the airport, and I thought, and I love people, and I love spending time with people, and I just remember thinking to myself, what have I done? But then actually, when I got out there, and I do love that time. Sometimes I'm the same as yourself, Barry. Just that free time when you don't have to worry about anybody else, and it may sound a little bit selfish, but I think, we often talk about people go on holiday to relax, but you go on holiday with your loved ones, and I believe that actually you never relax on holiday, because I think people care about people generally, and I think when you go away on holiday with your loved ones, you're always concerned about them. You're always wondering, are they having a good time? Do they need anything? Can I help them? So I don't think you actually truly have that mental shower, or that you truly relax. And what I found with going away was I didn't have to worry about anybody else. Again, no one was contacting me. I didn't have my phone. I got up, I did my meditation, I did my yoga, which was all very new to me. But it was, really empowering. I'd walk down the beach and I was just in my own world. I read a fantastic book called The Biology of Belief, and it was amazing, really. I was learning a lot of things on a spiritual side, and then I was reading the scientific side behind all this, and I just thought, this is just amazing. Do you know what? I just connected with myself, just that quality time with just me, which was difficult as a people person, to be honest. but empowering.
And it's also because we don't do it often enough, Greg.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, where you touched on that fear bit, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. To be fair, you're actually stepping out your comfort zone when you do something like that, especially when you do it on your own.
Yeah.
Because you're also in a position where you've got to, if you want to get on when you're in, you know, when you're halfway around the other side of the world, you're going to have to step out your comfort zone. You're going to have to ask people questions. You know, sometimes people that don't speak your language, you've got to adapt. You know, there's quite a bit of stretching as well involved in it. You know, I always feel that I've stretched myself when I come back from something like that as well. You know, I think that's an additional bonus. It's not necessarily what you're going for, but it does actually help as well. What do you think?
Oh, without doubt, I think you do come back feeling revitalized. You know, re-energized, as you said earlier, inspired. With a new focus. I mean, I just come back and I remember people saying to me, "You look great." I was only away a week.
Yeah.
And okay, you know, I was eating, you know, beautiful seafood, you know, drinking a lot of water, and you know, but I felt great. And I suppose it's that philosophy: when you feel good, you portray that positive, good feeling, don't you? That vibe, and people noticed. And I know not everyone can go away on holiday, but I still think, you know, it's not necessarily the fact that you went to Asia and I went to Asia. It's the power of the doing that, even as you said earlier, Barry, even if it's little moments of quality time, like you said, when you're out on your bike, or, you know, if you go for a walk on a Sunday afternoon, or if you know, you want to learn to meditate, or if you just give yourself time every week where you decide, look, this is my time, I'm going to shut down and I'm going to go and spend some quality time with me, just to reconnect with what's important to you.
Definitely. I mean, you mentioned something that I really relate to, where you said about it almost sounds a bit selfish.
Yeah.
Because I do remember the first few times. I've been doing it now for about the last 4 years, but the first few times, you know, I did feel a little bit selfish, and I had to get in touch with that, and you know, I wanted to the sort of the part of me wanted to understand why I felt like that, but also I didn't want to feel like that. So I did some reading along those lines, and I came up with what I now use. Instead of selfish, I use self-focus, and I think everybody needs time, like you said, just for themselves, to just focus on you. What do you need at this moment? Whether it be, you know, some time away on your own, you know, massage, go out on a bike ride, go out on an inspirational walk, go on a course, do something new, take up something new, but do it just for you, and that be your own time.
Yeah.
You know, and then stick to it, commit to it. Use the slight edge, the compound effect principles, you know, of using and doing something on a regular basis. That does revitalise you, as you said. You know, you painted a picture to me there where you said about when you got back, a lot of people commented on how well you looked, and obviously the fact that you looked well meant you felt well. You were exuberating that, you know, that kind of inner confidence and that inner peace, and that's what people want. You know, and like you said, we are trying to attract people to us in our business. So great tip there. If you're on top of your form and you feel at peace, then you're going to attract that kind of person as well.
Yeah, I really like the fact where you've obviously, as you said, you've read in and looked into this and kind of acquired that it's that self-focus. I do love that concept, because I think that's really important for people to be able to tap into the inner power that we know everyone possesses, and to feel good about life. And then, you know, when they're on that philosophy of, I think, you know, Jim Rohn used to talk 6 days on and 1 day off, I think, was something I listened to, where, you know, you've got 6 days, you know, if that's how you want to work your business, 6 days where you're focused and you're in your zone and you're having fun doing what you do, and, you know, creating a legacy. And certainly in our business, you know, having the power of being able to develop and make a difference to people's lives, you know, from, you know, personal development through to the, you know, the networking industry. It's all, you know, it's all personal development, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
I think that's what our business is core to. But to be able to spend that quality time with yourself and have that self-focus, so that when you are having your own time, you keep to them principles you were talking about, and you make it your own time. You have that quality time, whether it be with your family, whether it be with your friends, your loved ones, but you also have a little bit of time just for you.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So key, and mate, and personally, it makes such a difference. It really does. Certainly, I've experienced that, and I know, I've shared it with other people. I know other people that have started more recently, and have commented back that, hey, that was fantastic. And the other thing, again, as I say, I like this one because it's not the one you do it for, but it's a big benefit. It does take you outside your comfort zone. A lot of what you do, even meditation. I remember when I first started meditation, it was so uncomfortable, Craig. To actually try and quieten my mind for 5 minutes, let alone the 20 that I'm being recommended, was really tough. And even now, if I'm not on it regularly, then I have to go back, and it's almost like starting again.
Yeah,
Because we've all got so many things going on in our heads.
yeah, it's amazing, mate, isn't it? It's just making me chuckle there because I'm just remembering just like trying to quieten your mind is near on impossible. You think you've mastered it, and then you realise that actually everything's flowing all over. Brilliant. So is meditation still something you try to quiet your mind and have a little bit of quality time there? Is that something you still do?
What I've done, Craig, it's quite a good question, interesting, because I'm one of those people. I love the concept. I've read so many people. Wayne Dyer was probably the biggest, the biggest influence in my own personal life over the years. And he's someone that every day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, swears by it, talks about it all the time. So I got involved in it. I started doing it. And did notice, by the way, lots and lots of very positive results. But I still struggle with it. And if I'm honest, I didn't practice it enough. Going back to what we were saying about practice, I wouldn't say I mastered it. But what I did find is that I can do it in a different way now. What I tend to do is I do it when I'm out on my bike, on my own. I can just totally lose myself. I mean, I'm in a very fortunate in that I live on the River Thames, and so I'm 2 minutes away from the paths around the Thames, and I very often, especially after work, I'll just shoot off, even if it's only for half an hour. Like last night, I was busy, but I fitted half an hour in, and again, I can come back from that, and I can have let go of everything, and my mind almost be empty. Just that focus on pushing myself on a bike, and just being in nature, being in a very quiet environment, and so that. I still like, and most people wouldn't call that meditation, but for me, that's my meditation.
Do you know what, Barry? You've just inspired me because I live not too far away from a beautiful park, some amazing parks in the Peterborough area, actually, and I brought myself a bike for that exact reason. And then it started raining a lot, so I actually haven't fulfilled. I'm obviously a fair weather biker, but you've just inspired me to actually, this evening I'm going to go out on my bike and just let go. So next time I see you, make sure you ask me how am I getting on with my bike riding.
I will definitely. Just on that note, I actually go out when it is raining. Okay. I don't know about you, but I mean, if you've been anywhere in the in the countryside, in the forest or whatever, there's always that kind of like clean smell, and when it is chucking down with rain. So although it isn't always raining here, whenever it's raining, I'd rather go out when it's raining than if it's lovely and sunny, personally. And again, it tends to be nobody else out. So where I go, there won't be. Yesterday, it was chucking with rain. There was no one else by the river. I was the only person down there, and it's so lovely down there. It's beautiful. Okay, I got wet, but hey, even that sometimes getting wet is quite refreshing. So lots of different ways you can do it, isn't there?
Yeah, mate, I'm inspired. You remind me, like every time, because I travel a lot like yourself, and I think every time I come back to the UK, I always love coming back to the cold, fresh air early in the morning. It just reminds me that I'm back home. So yeah, I can see the attraction. It's raining today, mate. I'm going to make a commitment to go out.
Absolutely.
In pursuit of my happiness. Hey Barry, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and it's great to chat with you. I certainly feel inspired, and I knew that we'd be able to share some value with everyone that listens to this podcast show. So what I'll do is I'll get this out to everybody. If everyone wants to connect with Barry, you can do at their website knowledgeisking.co.uk. They've got an amazing resource of personal growth and network marketing material, from books, CDs and DVDs. And there's a great thing. I think you write it as well, Barry. You've got that little section. Is it called Something to Think About?
That's the one, yeah.
And that's something that you put together from your findings from your own personal development. Is that right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, guys, get onto the website. Barry, I really appreciate your time, mate. And I know you're a busy guy. And I'll look forward to speaking to you soon.
You're welcome, Craig. Great. Pleasure as always, mate. Take care.
If you enjoyed today's show, we would appreciate it if you would like. Most people share through social media, then subscribe, rate and provide a review over at iTunes and SoundCloud. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us. The Passion to Succeed show is brought to you by passiontosucceed.com. Get over to the website, subscribe and join the community of passionate people.